You launched with one van on the road and you made $68,000 in that first year. What was that like?
It was difficult. I think what made it difficult was at what point do I get off the van and just do like the sales? And then at what point do I pass off the sales? I made $40,000 a year for a couple years after making six figures for 10 years prior to that. It was uncomfortable.
For somebody watching, right, that is looking to starting a home service company, what would be your advice to them?
My advice that comes to mind right now that has worked well for me is to have a mindset of giving. I think too many people that I run into are takers, and I feel like the most successful people, they give. Whether it's giving to their employees and paying them more, or if you're going to start a company, it doesn't matter what industry it's in, just be known to be someone that gives more than you're asking for.
Welcome back to another episode of the Austin Zaback Show. I appreciate you tuning in today. Today we have Evan Ritchey on the podcast. He is the founder and CEO of Coconut Cleaning, one of the fastest growing home service companies in the nation, generating over $10 million in annual revenue. The brand has been innovative in scaling by franchising its eco-friendly cleaning model across multiple markets and leveraging influencer partnerships, which is really big. We're going to talk about that in a little while, to amplify brand awareness and connect with a broader audience. Evan, we actually did a business tour, what I like to call a business tour, on my YouTube channel, so people have to go check that out as well. We'll link all of that information down in the description below. So at any point today during the interview, if you decide you want to go watch the actual business tour of me and Evan, where we're essentially touring your entire facility, getting an idea of how exactly everything, kind of operates and stuff like that, definitely go check that out. But Evan, I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you wobbled in here.
Yeah.
And if your doctor's watching, you have your crutch.
I have my crutch, 5 weeks post-op ACL surgery, but we're moving.
You're moving and grooving.
Yeah.
You look like you're right back at it pretty much. So I kind of want to start, Evan, with, because I know we talked about, there's some things that we talked about in the business tour that I want to kind of weave into here. And then there's things that I want to go, in the podcast that we didn't even get to over there, right? But one of the things is that, you left a stable job, right? A good job,
Correct.
Good stable job, to start Coconut Cleaning. Was there ever a time where, you thought maybe I made a mistake, or maybe, it was like, man, did I do the right thing? That type of thing. Was there ever any doubt after you did that?
I feel like every other day for the first 3 years. It was a six-figure earning job. I was trying to get ready to go to medical school, and there was so much unknown and volatility in starting the business, especially starting it with Cameron and Dusty, who owned Green Mango Pest Control at the time. There was this constant $1 million in revenue isn't good enough. $2 million isn't good enough. I have to get to 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And I think along the way, I learned so much with just how cash works in a business, and every van being $100,000 and damaging a customer's area rug that's $100,000. All these little things, I just never felt like I could get ahead. And so I'd say the first 3 years, as we were really trying to figure out who we were, what we were going to be about, what our staple was going to be, I definitely looked back to more peaceful and quiet times in my life. And I would just wonder, hey, is this going to be worth it? And is this something that I hope, one, it doesn't crash and burn, but two, that it helps me live a lifestyle that, I thought my other profession was going to help lead to faster.
What was the pivotal moment where you got that confirmation of this is it? How many years in would you say?
I'd say about 3.5. So at the end of year 3, or about 2.5 years in, our CFO said, you have 6 months of runway left, meaning the cash that we had, the revenue we were projecting for, and the future expenses ahead, we were probably going to have to shut the doors in about 6 months. And it was Christmas Eve night, and after the kids went down to bed, I went to the office and I was just brainstorming, and I made a plan. And I said, okay, we need to get our accounts receivable days down. We need to start increasing the amount of times that we see the customers we've already paid for. And within about 30 days, that plan was coming to fruition and totally turned things around. And I think that's when it really clicked to me that I am the cause and I'm the cure in my business. And I think that's such a blessing and a curse in entrepreneurship, is that the success and failure generally leads back to the head. And I think it was at that time I realized the proactivity I put into this business and how I allocate my time can make all the difference. And once I saw those two things come together, I just knew that as long as I was steering this thing, like, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And really powerful when you think about it, because I think every entrepreneur, right, that I've ever interviewed, you go back, you said in the beginning, you've watched a lot of my podcasts and stuff. Like, nobody just like starts their business and then it just takes off and like everything's sunshine and rainbows, right? Like, you never hear that, at least, it's always the ups, the downs, the doubt, the fear, the anxiety, the, oh my God. A lot of times even people actually do crash and burn.
Yep.
And then they have to rebuild it again, right? And that's something that I've even done multiple times with different businesses over the years, is completely crashed and burned and had to rebuild the entire thing from the ground up.
That was one of the things I wrote down, as I think about our journey and, what it is that I wanted to do. It's carpet cleaning, right?
Right.
We're a carpet cleaner. There's 30,000 carpet cleaners nationwide, 29,990 are owner operators. Mm-hmm. There are, I think, like 20 to 30 operations throughout the U.S. where it's actually doing a couple $1 million in north, especially on the franchise level. But for you, like, was this a thing where you wanted to be a real estate agent and the best, and then it turned into something much bigger? Like, how did you go from just being a regular agent in a world where I don't know how many agents there are even in Arizona?
In Arizona, probably 75,000.
75,000 agents. Yeah. Like, how do you get and break and get, I guess, cut through the noise and start making a name for yourself like you have? You
just got to be more consistent than everybody. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, right, is in entrepreneurship, or business ownership in any industry, your competition, most of your competition, 9 out of 10 people in your competition world will not, they just don't have what it takes, right? So if you just give it long enough, they'll eventually fizzle out. Yeah. Or they'll just get complacent, or they'll get lazy, or they'll get fat and happy, or whatever, right? And you just have to keep on going, you know? I never really thought that I would be, I own multiple real estate companies. When I got into real estate, I don't know that I thought in that moment, like, this is going to be the thing that is like the thing that I go change the game in. You know what I mean? Like, I thought maybe it would be like a stepping stone to the next thing, or maybe it would be, a way for me to learn the game of real estate so that one day I could be a real estate investor and, play that game, right? And then it just evolved. I ended up very slowly, very surely, a lot of failure along the way, ended up becoming one of the top wholesalers in the nation. So we now wholesale anywhere between 1 and 3 houses a day.
That's
right.
Wild.
Every day, 365, so that's pretty crazy. Most people have never been able to figure out how to do that. And then on the retail side of things, which is my other real estate company that I own, my other big one, we're the number one team in the state of Arizona. I believe we're about to be the number one team in America, in the country.
Is that by revenue or volume of houses? I know those generally correlate, but
that would be by volume.
Okay.
But because people aren't going to share their revenue.
Right. Because in California, a single home there is probably worth, 1 or 2 times more than like your average home here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it totally is. But, but there are other pieces of the puzzle that change too. Like when you run a large real estate company the way that we do, like, real estate sales is only probably 30 or 40% of our overall revenue.
Wow.
Right? Because, we want to get the title company income. We want to get insurance income. We have all these ancillary things that we're going to have our agents and our clients and people use, so that, there's more money flowing through the front door, so that we can provide better services to our agents, so that we can build a bigger team. Like, it's a whole thing, and it's just never been done before, right? Like, what we're doing right now has never been done. Probably similar to what you're doing with Coconut, which we're going to get to in a little while. When we talk about like your subscription model with cleaning.
Yeah.
Because, that's one thing that I feel like people in your line of work, like, nobody's doing that. Maybe people are copying you now, I don't know, but at one point nobody was doing that,
And that's what stuck out to me the most is I sold pest control for 3 years, about 12, 13 years ago. And I remember even then hearing about private equity and venture capital buying these pest control companies because of the reoccurring revenue.
Right.
And so I actually worked for a larger carpet cleaning company in hopes that I could apply the reoccurring model and provide subscriptions, and they said no. And after 11 months, I got out of there, and then I was just, I was going to go do medical school, but then when I was starting Coconut with Cameron and Dusty, it was like the most important thing was that we had a subscription model, because this industry is all about guys coming into your house. Hey, I responded to your 2 rooms of carpet for $20. You see it in the newspapers, the magazines, the coupons. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, how did I get up to $600-700?
Right.
And they're trying to upsell, and then they get out. Where the reoccurring model makes us committed to you. And it makes us have to know you and your family. And hey, we want to come out here 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year.
Right.
So let's not get more than just the carpet and the tile done today. Next time we could do your area rugs, we could do the upholstery, we could do everything in the home and help you have a cleaner home throughout the year.
Right.
But it's so hard to commit to that kind of model to maintain these customers and to keep them happy. But I knew that, one, I wanted it for maybe a potential exit in the future.
Sure.
But 2, once you get into business, you know that actually getting more value from your existing customer base is the best way to go. Rather than pouring new money into new customers.
Yeah.
If I can consistently get my customer pool back into service, like that's the most profitable way to keep scaling your business.
I love that. That was a huge golden nugget right there. I hope people took that away, right? So for any business that you're running, you're better off going and seeing, who am I already servicing? Who have I already sold products to this year? Who's already purchased some type of product or service from my company? And how do I get them to purchase again and be happy about it before I go get a new customer, right? Well, and you can do both.
I was gonna say in your industry too, because when I coach people or talk to people, and they're always say, where do you put money into marketing? And then I ask them how long they've been doing business, and they've been doing business 3 years, and they've serviced maybe 2,000 customers. I said, when's the last time you've done like a drip campaign?
Yeah.
When's the last time you've called your customers and said, hey, how did we do?
Right.
For you guys, like, I think people underestimate the value in, one, taking care of a customer. And it's not always about maybe getting them to buy another home, I imagine, for you, but it's also like, hey, who do you know? If you had a great experience with us, who do you know that you could refer that might be looking for a home?
Yep.
Like, are you guys like is referrals a high source of new customers for you guys?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. We are, our operation. So like when you separate out like the individual agent versus like what we're doing, it's 2 different ball games, right? Because obviously we're running a team like nobody else is running a team. And so our team, we have a lot of, it's just our client really now. It's like my client with running that company is the agent.
Yeah.
Like the agent is my client. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I have to look at it like that, right? Their client is not my client. That's their client.
You resource them as best as you can.
Yeah, exactly. So my whole goal is, how do I service the agent at the highest level? Because they chose to be on our team. They want to be on our team for a various number of reasons. How do I give them the best experience that I possibly can? And then they're going to go give their client the best experience. Now, some of that directly trickles down to the client from us, right? But some of it just goes to the agent, and then it's on the agent to then go and kind of make sure that their clients are taken care of, But they're getting the training, they're getting the support, they're getting the systems, the processes. They just have to go do it. Yeah. They have to go do the work.
Yeah.
It's a unique business model, and it's one that, like you've never really seen like a big real estate team have like an acquisition, right? And like our goal is to get to that point. Not that we would actually sell if we got to that point, but our goal is to get to a point where we're so big and we're such a dialed machine that if we wanted to sell, we could sell, and for 9 figures or multiple 9 figures at a minimum. Like we would never even look at anything underneath of that. And again, we might not even want to sell when we get to that point, but we want to try to get to that point. And I have some partners that think we can get to 10 figures, for an acquisition, which would be pretty wild.
That's phenomenal. So, and is it similar to like a service-based company where if your client is the real estate agents, I imagine in this kind of environment, they don't have like managers, do they? Are they all just independent, not necessarily independent contractors under your umbrella, but in a service-based company, you have these like levels of leadership and, these 10 people go to this manager.
Yeah.
Do you have a structure of,
totally.
Really?
You have so much staff.
So how many people do you directly manage? Like they report to you?
0.
I love that. Why did you do that?
0. One, maybe one, depending on how you look at it. Because I own a handful of companies. You know, nobody reports to me for any like
day to day.
Nobody, not a single person. The only thing that I would say is I'm the president now of all the companies, okay? And so I'm in a lot of the meetings. I'm in a lot of the high-level conversations, and I'll give my input. But it is just that. It's just input. It's not I don't micromanage anybody. I learned not to do that a long time ago. I don't, I'll let people fail. I don't care. Even if I can clearly see, clear as day, that they're walking right off a cliff, I'll let them, because you have to. If you micromanage them, that's not going to work, right? So, we have a huge team. We have, between all the companies, we have over 400 people, So, it's a lot of people, and we just, I've gotten out of that role completely. This is what I do now.
That's such a flex, though.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand how hard that is to get to a level where and also just as an individual, the security you must have in the standards, frameworks that you've built to allow the business to run without your direct input on a day-to-day basis. Like that is so difficult.
It's crazy.
Because I feel the more that we scale, the more I feel the need to get into those details and figure out, okay, if I have franchisees coming in and they're getting trained, like how's our training process going at this place? And it's, I admire that a lot.
Yeah.
One, in a founder, to be able to remove himself and not be obsessed with being in every detail, like that's a whole new level too.
It's crazy, man, and it took a lot of practice, and I'm not perfect, but, and I definitely know, like I have the knowledge in my brain of what is going on in any of my companies at any given time, because I sit in on a lot of the meetings. I'm listening. A lot of times I'm just a fly on the wall. You know what I mean? I'll be in there. I'll have 15, 20 staff members in there. They're conducting the meeting. They're running the meeting. I'm a fly on the wall in that meeting. And maybe I'll chime in once or twice throughout the entire duration of that meeting, right? And then if I do have a piece of advice, I'll take that advice to any one of my CEOs running the actual companies where all the direct reports report to them, and I'll give that advice directly to that CEO partner of mine.
That's so awesome.
Right? And it's just like, hey, here's what I noticed in this meeting. I think our training's a little bit out of whack. It would be really cool. I had an idea if we did this over here, maybe if we did that, what if it looked like this? Okay, now you run with it and see where you end up. And then past that, I completely get it out. I remove it from my brain, right? It's like I'm going to give that information to the CEO of that company, and I'm going to delete. I'm literally going to click delete in my brain. And it's just like, I'm not going to think about it again, because now I trust my CEO that he will now do with that information the best possible thing that he can do, and the outcome will be the best that it could possibly be.
We got to get out to Netflix and get the awesome Zaback show.
I don't know about that.
What is Ryan Serhan's show? Living in Manhattan.
We're getting there. Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
It'll be cool, man. But I want to go back to you. So, and I got a couple really good questions here actually that I wanted to ask you, because I wrote some stuff down. So, you launched with one van on the road.
Yeah.
Okay, which is kind of wild. I mean, like humble beginnings, right? And you made $68,000 in that first year. What was that like, right? And then you were doing everything, correct me if I'm wrong. You were the guy answering the phones. You were the guy doing the actual cleaning, I think, weren't you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was the feeling like of being a one-man band pretty much out there, brand new first year, grinding? Like, how did that go?
It was difficult. And I think what made it difficult was I always struggled with, at what point do I get off the van and just do like the sales? And then at what point do I pass off the sales? So the first year I had an iPad mini. It was kind of weird. I had this little like purse hook that connected to an iPad mini. So I'd be cleaning the house. And then if someone called into the sales phone, I'd freak out because I'm in a customer's house. And I would just tell them at the beginning of the cleaning, hey, I currently take our sales. So if you hear me taking a phone call, I promise I'm staying with the cleaning. So I would have AirPods. I'd be cleaning a room, closing another sale. I'd book them on the iPad, and then I would keep the cleaning process going. And I think it was fun for me because I learned to really love the process, and I learned to know these are what my standards are. This is what I'm capable of doing in a day. And I know that anyone that comes on board, like I'm going to hold them to that standard. And so I was glad that I started out that way, because I don't think I would have been able to enforce our standards now 8 years, because any new tech is like, well, what do you know? I'm like, well, hey, let me tell you, I did this for 2 years, and I was on the van, and I was making the phone sales, and I did the routing, and I did all those things. And it allowed me to appreciate every individual role contributing to the overall mission, but also it allowed me to, enforce a standard that nobody could deviate from or have an excuse to say, hey, I can't do this thing.
Right. Yeah.
That was probably I would say the most important thing that I learned, that in any founder, especially in service space, is like, don't be too quick to pass off the hat of a certain role.
Sure.
Find out what your best KPIs are for your performance, and then make those your standards. And then as you're growing and as you're scaling, these people aren't able to come in and say, hey, well, I don't have that much time to take that many phone calls, or I can't close that, have a high of a close rate. And it's like, hey, I did it. So now what breadcrumbs are we missing here to help you have the same close rate, or to help you have the same, like I never got a reservice.
Yeah.
I always made sure our customers were happy. And I think the number one contributing thing to that in carpet cleaning was, after I was done with a room, I would say, hey, Austin, how's the room look? You happy? I have the wand right here. I could retouch it up. You're like, no, I'm good. So by the end, there's no way someone's going to call me the next day and be like, you know what, I'm just not happy with it. And so anytime I look at our reservice rate and it's, above 2%, I say, hey, are we doing our quality checkpoints? I can go back to the little variables that contributed to a certain performance level and see that it's missing, and then just say, hey, let's go back to doing these. And sure enough, it drops right back down.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Yeah. Learning each role, I think, as an entrepreneur is so important, right?
Yep.
So many people that even I've coached over the years, like they want to kind of scale almost too quickly, where it actually will be a disservice to them in the future.
Yep.
Because it's like, if you're getting out of each role too quickly as like the founder and entrepreneur, then 10 years later, when you're trying to train each role and you really can't actually speak to each role, and then you don't earn their respect now either, because they're like, oh, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. Like, he's the founder and he doesn't have any freaking clue.
Correct.
So we're just going to do it our way, because our way is better, right? Yep. And then everything falls apart, and we've seen that in our companies as well, right? Yep. When people start deviating from the standard operating procedure, we're like, we just point back to the standard operating procedure. We're like, this is why it's good. This is why you have to do it, right? And your ideas are always welcome and they're great, but that particular idea is not good. We know that because we've tried that. It doesn't work. So go back to doing that over there.
Like for you guys, is there a certain average amount of days that a home is on the market before your team sells it?
I could get that number.
I guess like then you would know if a certain agent is taking twice as long. You're saying so you're not doing something right.
Yeah, like that might be like they're pricing it wrong.
Right.
So you have a lot of agents out there that will, and this is standard across America, right? There's a lot of real estate agents out there that will just take the listing just because it's a listing, and they'll list it at whatever price the seller thinks is worth. The problem with that is sellers always think their house is worth $200,000 more than it really is, or whatever, right? And so if you just roll over just because you want the listing so bad, and you're so thirsty for that listing, then you're going to take it at any number. You're just going to say yes, 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 yes. I'll take it. And then you're not going to get any phone calls for 30, 60, 90 days. And then now you look like the bad guy because you got to go back to your client and be like, hey, we're overpriced. And your client's going to be like, well, why the hell didn't you tell me that 90 days ago? Oh, well, I wanted the listing, and I just listed at the price. And so the right way to go about that is just have that hard conversation up front, right? Hey, Nancy, I know you think your house is worth $500,000. Let me show you why I don't think it'll sell at $500,000. Let me show you the data.
Yep.
The data is pointing to the fact that your house is probably going to trade at $400,000 or $430,000. Here's all the data. Here's why I'm saying that. Here's roughly the amount of time it should take to trade. And I understand you want 500. Now I just want you to know, if we push the boundary and we go above this 430 number where I'm confident the house is going to trade at, just know it might sit longer, and eventually I'm going to be calling you to drop that price. Are you okay with that?
And at the very least, you're setting the expectations in advance.
So it's my job then to train our agents on how to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the one anymore really in the living room.
Yeah.
Similar to you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's your job to train the tech to go now into each room. And when they're done with the living room, to say, hey, come here real quick. Do you see anything else? I got the wand right here. Anything else I can do?
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Same exact thing.
Yep.
Different
That's the power
industry.
of wearing that hat before you pass it off and
power.
then having those standards.
Yep. So how many vans total do you have now in Arizona?
Arizona's 22.
22 vans.
Yes.
Okay. Quite a few vans.
Yes.
100,000 a van, right?
Yes.
100,000 a van. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's more than a Green Mango truck, right?
Yeah.
Like by like double.
Triple.
Yeah.
So the total outfitted Green Mango van was like 40,000. And then they've got it down just, depending on like the fleet prices and everything, they've gotten it down to 34.
Wow.
And then sometimes through Enterprise leasing the vehicle, it's even cheaper.
Dang.
Where we don't have any of that yet. So having even like a baseline van, it's really that equipment that we choose to invest in. There are machines that are truck mounted into the van that are $10,000.
Sure.
But we buy the $55,000 ones, not just because it's the most expensive. It is because it is the best. It extracts the best. It has the fastest dry time. It allows our technicians to get in and out of a home 20 minutes faster than another, vehicle or another machine that they might be using. So there are reasons and methods, but yeah, about 100,000. And then when I talk to, new potential franchisees and they say, hey, I found this other machine for, a fourth of the price.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is what our FDD says. There's a reason.
Right.
We have that standard, and we want you having the best equipment to give you the best solutions and outcomes.
So how many vans were you at in Arizona when you decided you wanted to franchise?
10.
10?
It was that group of kids that just came along. They're like, hey, I want to franchise. And
you just did it.
I just did it.
Yeah.
I did it for them.
Sure.
And they're crushing it.
Yep.
And that's where I mentioned prior to the show, your office tour kind of put me in a sticky situation. Because if you look up Coconut's social media or our website, we don't advertise franchising. And that's because of me. One, I want to make sure that the quality is always there. I love our brand. But also, two, the concept of, being a national CEO, scaling a national brand.
Sure.
I really have been looking internally, making sure our systems are there, our training is there, making sure our FDD is bulletproof from getting, sued. And it's been super neat. Just in the last 3 months, I'd say organically, we had 6 others come in, and then your show just randomly brought in 6 others in the pipeline for franchising.
Super cool.
And rather than backing down, we are ramping up all of our systems, our manpower, and our executive team to support it.
I love
it's been super fun.
So will the goal then now be to scale Arizona to, what do you think you can get Arizona to? 100 vans? Or not that many?
Not that many.
50?
I don't know if you remember, we talked about the concept of revenue is for vanity, profits for sanity.
Yep.
So I feel like what has made Coconut great is we've really taken a look at what is the point of the decay rate algorithm, right? Of like, when can I get the most for the least amount of input? And I feel like this location could be about a $15 million location with about 40 to 50 vans.
Okay.
And I think that's the most important point where I think we're able to maintain the same margins. I think anything after that, the margins, we're reaching colder and colder markets. We're spending more and more money to get into these demographic of customers who just don't pay that much.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if you experience that too, but we can clean anyone's home. But there is a difference between going to Paradise Valley and spending a whole day there and at one house for we did a mutual friend's house last week, $7,000 job in one day.
Yep.
Versus going to a typical Gilbert home, it's about a $400 job average. We have to do, 5 of those in a day on a single van to just make it good.
Yep.
And so I'm constantly trying to find out where that point is, where we get to take care of the best demographic of customers and still facilitate to others, but also like not get too diluted with people that want everything for free and they're only spending $50 and it's not very profitable for us to be out there.
Yeah. It's really valuable, right?
It's a struggle.
But I mean, for people to know that, hey, every business isn't just infinitely scalable in one lane.
Correct.
Like you either need to invent a new lane
Correct.
for you as franchising, or another product or another something.
Yeah.
Because, I've even said that about my wholesaling company, which is my other real estate company that I own. I'm like, hey, dude, I really believe my wholesale company has the capability of doing about $15 million a year.
Yeah.
Right? Anything past that, sure, maybe it could be done, but it would be the law of diminishing return.
Yeah.
It would be a total pain in the butt. It would be like I wouldn't even want to, right? Like I'd rather just take that 15 mil and just go invest it somewhere else. Like go start another company or buy real estate or fill in the blank, right? And it's kind of that same concept, right? As opposed to, being naive and thinking, oh, I can get my wholesale company to 100 million a year.
Right.
It's like, well, I could probably get a different company to 85 million a year faster than I could get that company to 100.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I really love that concept of that. And so then as your goal, as you continue to scale, who will determine, like maybe walk me through this, like if somebody's watching and they own like a home service company or whatever in any industry, like who determines, like you say this market, 40 vans, 15 million, right?
Yeah.
Now let's say you get a franchisee in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
Do they determine like how what's their cap? Like who looks at that market and says, all right, I think if you're a really good franchisee and you really, do exactly what we say and just like literally follow the blueprint step by step, we think that you can get to 30 vans and, $8 million a year in revenue? Or do you just say, go build it as big as you can build it?
So I have a secret weapon, and I'm not sure if you have one of these people in your organization, but it's my CFO. Mm-hmm. The guy is phenomenal with numbers. And he has not been.
I've got two
you
in
have
my
two?
organization. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep him behind the scenes. He can look at any market and within an hour based off Census Bureau information and whatever information he could possibly find, he can almost predict with a 90% accuracy the true potential of what our carpet cleaning company could do in that area.
Sure.
And so far in the other 5 markets, he's been 100% accurate. And as these new franchisees are coming in saying, hey, I live in Minneapolis, Orange County, San Antonio, Miami, what could I do? As a franchisor, I have to be very careful and say, hey, a lot of it's going to be up to you and the work that you put in. However, the preliminary information that you could possibly do in that market is 10 million, 5 million, 3 million. Like we had a guy that wanted Tucson. And I think we told him a $2 million market. And, with what he wanted for income,
it was like,
it didn't work.
Yeah.
He wanted to make $1 million a year. I said, well, hey, we're not 50% net, so it's not happening. And so he's kind of my CFO is my secret weapon where we look at potential markets, and we have since laid out a exact plan. And although franchisees get to choose, we've laid an exact plan for the first 86 franchises to get us to $250 million in revenue.
Wow.
And so when a franchisee is like, hey, I'm willing to go anywhere for the best opportunity, we're saying take a look at this list and see if you want to go to any of these areas. And that's where we want to support rather than, hey, I live in Midland, Texas.
Right.
And because we had a guy say, hey, I'm Midland, Texas, and everyone has a lot of money, but we did some research, and in that market for what we do, it's probably like a $400,000 franchise.
Yeah.
And so we just said, hey, like, we're not interested in franchising there, and we actually turned them down.
Wow.
And so there are about 20 outside of that 86 that we're okay to entertain, but the first 86 are very strategic.
Sure.
And so far, everyone that has looked into franchising is in one of those territories. So we haven't had to, completely say no other than the Midland guy and the Tucson guy, but it's very specific.
Yep.
And it is because that CFO knows macro and microeconomics down to a T. And so we want all of our resources supporting those areas first.
I love that. Because what would the alternative be for somebody that didn't know what the heck they were doing, right? Somebody that wasn't as thorough as you and your numbers guy. The alternative is just sell the Tucson guy the dream, get him in a franchise, and then he finds out a year and a half later that he's capped out and he's not making what he wants to make, and now you have an unhappy franchisee. Is that the alternative?
That's the alternative, and I did not know how problematic the franchise world is, where if a guy sells or closes his shop, we have to legally disclose it to every new franchisee moving forward.
Yeah, which is wild.
Right? And they can create their own story. Hey, we could say, hey, the Tucson guy, it was his thing. He backed out because he wasn't making this amount.
Yep.
But just for someone who's interested in buying a new territory that hears, oh, these 5 locations already shut down.
Right.
It's already a little stain on the brand. And so I think all in all in the last year, we've had 12 people come forward and we've said no to 12.
Wow.
And so now this new set of 12, it looks like 6 of the 12 are good. And I really look forward to, one, making sure that they're set up for success, but it is a very strategic process in making sure that who we choose and the territory that's chosen is one that's going to be, set up for success over the next few years.
Aside from the market, the numbers, the people, the average median income, household income, et cetera, population, right?
Yep.
What else are you looking for in a franchisee to make them a good fit for your brand, Coconut? Like when you get on some of these interview calls, or however that goes, like what do those conversations look like? What are a couple of other things where you're like, okay, like if you don't meet this, and this, like you're not a good fit. Like, is there anything?
Yeah, right now my 2 biggest things are grit and liquidity. Is grit, it's hard to gauge over the phone, but I really quickly am able to find out what their true intentions are when some of their first questions are how soon can I start taking money from the business?
Right.
I went 4 years without doing. I made $40,000 a year for a couple years. After making 6 figures for 10 years prior to that. It was uncomfortable. But a lot of these vetting calls, some of these guys do door-to-door sales. Maybe they've stumbled across a little bit of liquidity, whether it's cash or access to credit. And their questions are very, well, how quickly will I just be like CEO running the thing and not being in the business?
Sure.
And those are generally, I try to have them expound a little bit more. But the people that will be chosen moving forward are the people that understand every year that I continue to put the profits back into this thing and grow it. I'm not only building, my net worth as far as, the company goes, but I'm setting myself up for success long-term as I continuously build a model that isn't just me taking income and it's actually increasing the marketing budget or getting a good general manager to run the place so that you can take a vacation. And so grit, again, that's vague, but I just know how I'm doing it on the phone, and that's just making sure their intentions are right, and then that they actually have money and have proven that they can take care of their finances of about total liquidity between $150,000 and $200,000.
Okay.
Cash generally between 80 to 120.
Love it. And you want them to have that liquidity because?
One, to show the caliber person prior to buying. And then 2, they're going to need it because every location in that first 86, we anticipate exponential growth with our model.
Yep.
And so our first 4 franchisees put $50,000 to $80,000 in the first month. And then in the next 2-3 months, $10,000, $20,000 was coming out because they were already getting up to 3-4 vans in the first 3 months.
Wow.
And so we want to make sure that, again, back to your point of, I could sell the Tucson guy the dream.
Yep.
But if it's some guy that's like, hey, I just have enough for 1 van, I'm just not interested in, hey, we're going to be a franchisor that makes royalties off you. But if you can't even get to a second van because of cash until your money's coming from the business, like we're talking 6 to 9 months, we're not interested in that. We want people that are ready to just pour fuel on the fire and go.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, that really is a lot of value. What are a couple of pieces of advice that you would give to somebody else trying to franchise maybe a different, like a company? Like they're watching right now and they're like, dude, Evan, I got this window cleaning company or I got this, fill in the blank, right? And I've been thinking about franchising. Like what advice would you give to them?
My advice, especially in the franchise world, is if the brand, I would say check for brand over everything, regardless of franchising. You could go franchise a Whataburger right now or a Chick-fil-A.
Right.
You'd want to go with the Chick-fil-A, right? One, the brand is there, it's established, but it's also what the market is currently, it's where their attention is. And the longer I do business, the better I understand that where people's attention is where the money's going to be. And if you have any type of brand that you're buying into that has a good structure to run the business, but their social media, they don't have any social media presence, and they're not really growing at a rate that is with the market, I feel like you should not do it.
Yeah.
And what I think is great about like Coconut or some of these others, like I think it's called Pinks in window cleaning. Yeah, it's such a cool brand.
Right.
I see celebrities using the brand. And so I would go anywhere as far as franchising goes where everything looks consistent with what the market is currently taking in, and also where it will in the future, they're going to be currently eating it up too.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I want to go back to the subscription stuff a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a big deal. Nobody had really been able to ever figure it out. You talked about the guy that you went and talked to when you were working for the carpet cleaning company. Who was the guy that told you no?
So he was the owner of the Phoenix franchise of the bigger carpet cleaning franchise. And so he and I started the Tucson franchise.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he's like, hey, I have it in with the owners. Like we could look into subscriptions. And then within about a month, I realized that they weren't going to do the subscriptions.
Because they didn't believe in it, right?
And can I share like the best ending to the story is that same company flew myself and my business partner out to Pebble Beach to look into acquiring our company. And if they couldn't acquire us, they said, at least help us with subscriptions.
Oh my gosh.
So now a decade later, they're all ears on trying to do the subscription model and they can't.
Wow.
And so they go right back to us and they say, hey, if we can't buy you, tell us what you're doing with this subscription.
Right.
And what we were talking about earlier that I have proven to the business and to our margins over and over is that the only way to scale profitably is to continue to increase your current customer base. And I think too many companies are obsessed with new marketing dollars. And when I go back to our existing customer base, and I think it's important that it's not just getting more money from them. It's the referrals. It's the 5-star reviews. It's, hey, we're going to be at this farmer's market. Could you share on your social media? There is so much more to be learned about business when you actually look at if my existing customer base was the only source from which I could get new customers, how would I change my business? That single question has changed our operations year over year because every new company is like, hey, I want more new customers. And that's great. We do that too. But when you actually are obsessed with your existing customers that are in the pipeline, you've already paid the acquisition cost. So every new service after that, you're not having the acquisition cost come out. You're just having your cost of performing the service and your COGS. And so I am always telling business owners right now, if your existing customer base were the only platform from which you could receive new customers, how would you change your business? That has changed more businesses in my mind that I've talked to where they said, I would deliver better service.
Yeah.
I would have someone in the office calling them the next day and saying, how is your service? I would have someone full-time dedicated to make like a customer experience manager. We're now working with Chunk Cookies to every time we have someone sign up for a subscription, we're sending a box of cookies.
Oh, wow.
So we're taking from the existing marketing budget and saying, hey, Chunk, like how much is it going to cost us to send us a box of cookies for everyone that signs up? Because I believe while there is no direct ROI to it, I believe the ripple effect of telling our new customer that just signed up on a subscription, thank you, with a little box of cookies is going to have a better compounding effect than trying more in Google Ads or LSA or social media.
I completely agree.
And so I think too many companies focus too little on how they can make their existing customer base more valuable and what they'd be willing to do for them to help them grow the business.
Sure.
When you start the business, your mom, your friends, they're all happy and willing to help. But if you make friends of your existing customer base, they're all willing to do so as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fabulous. It really is great for any entrepreneur to hear, because I think out of all the people that I've interviewed, the problems and the things that work and don't work they're really all very similar from industry to industry, right? Like what works for you will work with, owning a lawn mowing company or like, like any industry you can apply, give or take the same principles. You might have to tweak them a little bit, right? But you can apply the same principles. It's like us, like when we close on a house, we get the buyer a gift, and we leave it on the counter, right?
I love that.
And we offer to take a picture of them in front of their new house with like a big key, and so like the details, right? Getting them to repost it on their social media. I know you guys are big on social media.
Huge.
And you guys actually do a lot of influencer stuff. I kind of want to talk about that a little bit too, if you wouldn't mind. Like, do you think that's the future of business? I mean, my wife, right, before I met you or Cameron, we bought a flip. So we were I do a lot of real estate. We were flipping a house. We ended up moving into the flip for a short period of time. A year, actually. We lived there. And we called, she saw some influencer talking about coconut, right? Again, we had no idea who you guys were. Like she just was like, oh, this looks like a cool company, And you guys actually came out and cleaned I think our couch and our rug and some other stuff, right? Did a great job, of course. But I say all that to say that my wife found that through an influencer that had posted it on their Instagram stories or their TikTok or whatever, right? Yep. When did you get involved in that lane of marketing, and has it done well for you?
Yeah, so I'll give my sister a shout out because that's how it started. Is 3 months into Coconut, Dusty and Cameron. What I loved about them was I had the opportunity to use their existing customer base at Green Mango, but in the first few months of my insert being in their service packet, it didn't take off. And so I was looking to them like, hey, I thought, where are my customers? And I said, dude, this is a 9 to 12 month play before someone even goes that far back in their packet to see you. Go door knock, go find something out. And so I actually called my sister who does like recipes and has a phenomenal website. And I said, hey, Kristen, could you, if I come to your house and clean, could you make a post? And she said, no. And this was just healthy sister-brother dialogue where she said, Evan, people pay me a lot of money to post.
Right.
And no.
Yeah.
And then like a day later, she said, come out to my house and clean.
Yep.
So I go clean. She takes a few pictures. Nothing. Doesn't post, doesn't do anything. And I'm at that awkward point where I don't know if I call her and say, hey, like, where's my post?
Yeah.
She's got, all these followers on Instagram and Facebook and 3 weeks later, I'm cleaning this house and the phone just starts buzzing. And I finally pick up the next one and I said, hey, this is Evan Coconut. They said, hey, I saw you on Little Luna. Can I have my carpets clean? And then as I'm talking to them, the phone's ringing again. I'm like, oh my gosh, 27 sales in one day.
Wow.
For my sister making a story. And after that, I went and wrote down 100 of our top influencers in Arizona that I saw most often. And I started DMing them saying, hey, let me come out, give you a free cleaning. And that's when we went from 160,000 to 1.5 million in a rolling 12 months period. Wow. Just people's attention is on that phone. And I preach this from the rooftops as much as possible. If your customer avatar is obsessed with Taylor Swift right now, get Taylor Swift tickets and do a giveaway. Like wherever your customer avatar's attention is, or wherever it is prior to them, right before they need your service. Get that thing and then use that attention that is coming from Taylor Swift, coming from the Diamondbacks, coming from whatever. Yep. Like every Father's Day, we do a golf club giveaway. We give away a whole set of clubs, and it's phenomenal how many of the wives of the customers that we service, how many of them try to get their husbands these new clubs. Yeah. And we'll get an extra 5,000 to 6,000 followers every Father's Day because we give away a $2,000 pair of clubs. Right. And so I'm sharing a lot of things that I know if people implement nationally, it'll make it a little bit more difficult for a future franchisee to get into that market if they start doing it. But what I do know is that the brand has to be consistent with what people are happy to share. Sure. Luckily, the brand was just decent enough for my sister to say, you guys are just clean enough where I'm willing to share. Yep. If you have some respectfully, just a brand that you have not put a lot of money into, people aren't as happy to share.
Yep.
And they want that feeling of, hey, I'm doing something, and people want to keep up with the Joneses. And so social media is, in my opinion, at this time, it is a tool that we're going to continue to leverage.
Totally.
Giveaways, influencers, and just, again, if you're at an influencer's house, or if you're at just a regular person's house and you say, hey, can I give you this QR code to share on social media? Every customer that comes from this QR code from you, we'll give you a free cleaning.
Sure.
People are happy when you give things, especially when you're asking. People are happy to help. And so I'd say about 30% of the social media presence people see are just from people's homes that we're at, that we just ask them to share.
That's so valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, you can really, if you do it right, you can apply that to just about anything.
Well, take a look at this show, right? You guys put the office tour on YouTube, and I had a guy from China who watches your show. Yep. He's moving to Miami and wants to start a business, cash heavy, liquid, a lot of liquidity. And he said, hey, I want to start a service-based company. I live in China. I've watched Austin Zaback's show, and I want to start a coconut in Miami.
Wow.
Like, how the heck could that have happened 30 years ago?
Not a million years.
Just doesn't. Yep. And you posted a YouTube video. Yep. One, I told you I'm extremely grateful for. I don't know why you do it sometimes. But just to see that one correlation of now a possible Miami, franchise in the pipeline, just because we're on the Austin Zaback show on YouTube.
There we
go.
It's
phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is. Man, I preach it from the mountaintops too. I tell everybody, right? I'm like, build your brand, not just your company brand, but your personal brand, right? And two can kind of be one depending on, like for me, like my personal brand is like, hey, look at me. I'm an entrepreneur. I own all these different companies, right? For you, it might be, hey, look at me. I'm the CEO and founder of Coconut, the largest cleaning company.
A national brand.
Right. For Cameron, it might be, Cameron's probably changed recently, right? Yeah. But it's like build your personal brand, build your business brand, and freaking never stop building it, because you just never know when you're going to be, 5 years ago, I didn't know that I was going to be doing business tours with people like you. Like it just kind of, that entered into like my path somewhere along the way, right?
Right.
And in 5 years from now, I'll probably be doing something completely different when it comes to social media and the way that I'm attacking it and the way that I'm building it, right? I'm just kind of hey, just like you, right? Where are the eyeballs at right now? How can I get in front of the most amount of people possible? And what can we do with that, right? Like, what does that mean for my companies? What does that mean for maybe companies of mine that I haven't even started yet?
Right.
Like, I tell my partners all the time, I'm like, how valuable is it that we could just wake up tomorrow and basically have an idea of a company, could be anything. We're entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
And I already have all the contacts in my phone book that I would need to call to get that thing off the ground immediately.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy, right? And it's all because of social media.
Yep.
It's
like those billionaires that are said, hey, if you were dropped in a city and you had just your contacts, how quickly would you become a millionaire?
Right.
Most of them are like, a month, 2 weeks, a month.
Well, Grant Cardone did a whole show on that.
Yes.
Or it wasn't Cardone's show. It was it the History Channel or something, or the Discovery Channel?
Yep.
But it was the whole idea of they dropped 5 entrepreneurs or something like that. And they basically made them all Grant shaved his head.
Yep.
And they had to go, they had $100
correct
to their name. And they had to go, what was it? They had become a millionaire?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was who could make the most from the 100.
Sure.
But it became into all of them were turning into millionaires from that 100.
It's crazy.
Wild. And I think about the contacts and especially this little world where, Cameron and I met Tommy Mello.
Yep.
And then Tommy Mello, I don't know why, kind of like you, I don't know why he's so generous in certain areas that there isn't a direct ROI on. I haven't bought a garage door from Tommy,
right?
But meeting him, he goes and meets someone on his own time that has a franchisor that does 700 locations. And then he puts us in a text group and says, hey, Cameron Evan, I want you to meet Jeff Dudden. And for no other reason, it's just the context. And so as we meet Tommy, we meet Jeff, and then we meet Ken Goodrich, who had Gettle, and all these little people that, one, they know each other, and then how connected they are, and how everyone just I don't know if there's a stereotype, but even as people ask me about Cameron, the amount of successful people I know who just want as many people up with them It's wild.
It is
They want
crazy.
everyone to succeed.
Yep.
And, you know, again, yourself, Tommy, all these people, you don't need to do all this, but the more people I meet who are extremely successful just want other people to get connected and accelerate how fast they become successful as well.
Totally.
That's what's super neat.
Yeah, there's that old saying, like, nobody wants to be on the mountaintop all by themselves.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, nobody wants to be the only guy in their friend group driving a Lamborghini
Correct.
or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you want to roll up with your homies.
Yep.
You know, you want to have your people there with you, right? And that's just like a silly, worldly kind of example, but that applies to everything, you know. But I agree, man. Well, because you got to remember, anytime you see like a hate comment on social media or whatever, like those people aren't successful.
Yeah.
Like you can just judge that book immediately by the cover, right? Because I've never met a successful person in my life that leaves hate comments on people that are less successful than they are. They literally don't have the time.
Correct.
Right? They only have the time for positivity, abundance, and really just helping the world and helping people. They don't have time to go speak down or negatively to people, right?
And I think they just know there's that one, it doesn't make them more friends, doesn't make them more contacts, doesn't make them more money.
And yeah, and it's not good for their who they are, right? Like if I was the guy, if people knew me or you by the guy that just was like a hater all the time, like you wouldn't want that to be who you're known for.
No.
You know, it's like I want to be known for the guy that if I say something, I do. I'm a man of my word. I do what I say I'm going to do. I go above and beyond. I treat people the right way. I don't involve myself in drama. Like these are the types of things that allow entrepreneurs to get to 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures.
Correct.
You know, because they're able to just do what they do best, right? Which is really important. Okay, so a couple more things. I know that we're about 10:57 here, but we'll go a few more. So home services are really popular right now, right? Like we all know, you know, I mean, we just mentioned a bunch of people that own home service companies. We've got Tommy Mello. He owns A1 Garage.
Yeah.
I don't know. We probably aren't even, we probably don't know the exact number, but I know it's like that company just got valued at a ridiculous amount of money. I think just shy of $1 billion.
Yep.
Could be wrong. Obviously Cameron, you know, Green Mango, yourself, Coconut Cleaning, you know, home services. I have some other people that I know, Jordan and Brittany Beebe, they sold their company, you know, their plumbing company, Rooter Ranger. And so for somebody watching, right, that is looking to starting a home service company, like what would be your advice to them? Maybe a young blood watching right now and they're like 18, 19, 20 years old, or maybe they're a little older and maybe they've got some money, maybe they don't, who knows, right? But they're looking at the home service industry and they're like, man, I could see myself doing that. Like what would be your advice to them before they actually pull the trigger?
My advice that comes to mind right now that has worked well for me is to have a mindset of giving. I think too many people that I run into are takers, and I feel like the most successful people that are in the service-based company, or they run a service-based company, they give. Whether it's giving to their employees and paying them more, or bonus structures, or if you're going to start a company, it doesn't matter what industry it's in, just be known to be someone that gives more than you're asking for.
Love that.
And at Coconut, we have this principle called give, give, give. And just the saying itself it's over redundant for that purpose of when we go to a customer's house and I say, hey, Austin, like, oh, we're reconditioning this leather couch. Have you considered doing the rugs? If there's even a partial sales resistance that you give me, like, oh, no, man, let's just do the couch. Just say, reason I'm asking is I'd love to do them for free for you. I'm sure you have more. That way, you know, in the future, when you do want those other ones done, you know who to call. Would you mind if I did these 2 for free for you? Like having a standard and policy of our guys doing that, where we have an average $400, $500 service ticket, but they have to put in the services they did for free. So on average, for $400, we do about $700 in cleaning. Because I want people having that feeling of I receive more than they asked. And I want the wife or husband to come home to whoever stayed home during the cleaning to say, hey, why'd you pay $400? They actually did the couch outside. They did the pool furniture and they did the tile sealant for free. So those are the things that generally people are looking to help you right after. And I'd say the reason that customer referrals has been a top 5 new customer source for Coconut is because we give. And so
Yeah.
if you're going to do any industry, go into it in the mindset of giving. And I promise that in due time, you will have an abundance of whatever you're looking for, whether it's revenue, profits, people that want to work for you, if they just know that you're a giver.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the influencer stuff, right?
Yep.
You're technically giving.
Correct.
You're literally leading with value. You're saying, let me come do your stuff for free. All I ask is you post a story.
And our contract is, if you're not happy with it, don't post.
Right.
We're not going to call you back and say, why didn't you post?
Love
if there's
that.
anything that was about our service that you did not like,
Don't post.
call us.
Yep.
Text
Tell us
us
what it is.
But don't post.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Like we want people to know that we're not going to ask for the money.
Yeah.
We want to know, hey, the guy just didn't look clean enough. Like I
Sure.
thought you guys were cleaner than that. This guy came in, piercings everywhere. And sometimes people say things where, this guy had tattoos. We're like, well, that's not really, we're about neck and face. We don't do that. But like, we have people that say, hey, I didn't like, his shoes. They weren't clean enough.
Yeah.
Look, no problem. Don't share. And then if they do use this again, we make sure that person has a new pair of shoes going out to that house.
For sure.
Just all about giving. And then whatever we ask for in return, it does have a caveat of standards to make sure they're completely happy.
Yeah.
Always.
I love that.
Yep.
You need to start like a shoe company.
Right.
And just have like
Right.
shoes at your office. So all your techs every week, they just get like a new pair of shoes or something. You know what I mean?
We have about
Or like a shoe cleaning company. That could be it. It's like, hey, we'll clean your shoes. If you work for Coconut, you can get your shoes cleaned every morning before you go out on the job.
That's what Cameron wants.
You know
It's so
what I mean?
funny that you say that, but
Yeah.
we actually made a coconut shoe brush.
Okay.
Most shoe cleaning kits has that brush.
Yeah.
So we white labeled our own, put coconut on it, and we have about 1,000 of them.
Wow.
Because Cameron was like really attached to like, hey, like while we're there, we'll clean their shoes. I'm like, hey, let's stick to carpet and tile cleaning. So at some point in the future, I think that'll be a part of.
Well, let me know. I have a lot of shoes that need to be cleaned.
Right, especially us our white shoes.
Yeah,
they always
these ones
get
are
scuffed
terrible.
up.
I wish I could show the cameras, but cameras aren't going to be able to see them. Yeah, really dirty.
We'll get there one day. But what
Okay.
I will say, our avatar loves shoes, and we do a lot of shoe giveaways, and that also makes them happy.
There
as well.
we go.
Yeah.
For any new entrepreneur looking to get started, this is a question I get asked all the time, Evan, is, should I bring in a partner, right? Should I partner with somebody? Should I be 100% owner of this company I'm about to start, or should I bring in a partner? Should I give up equity, right? Like it's the age-old question, to have a partner, to not have a partner, And I don't know if I have partners in almost every company that I own.
Equity partners
In almost every company that I own. Different partners. Some of them are the same partners, like across multiple companies, and then some of my companies have different partners. And I don't think that I've ever done it any other way. I've started like a couple smaller companies where it's just I'm the 100% owner,
Right.
but nothing to like scale, right? What is your opinion on that?
My opinion, what's worked well for me is under a well-defined operators agreement, partners are a phenomenal thing. In my opinion, I think where people can go wrong with partners is, hey, I want to bring a brother on because like I want to help my brother out. Partners generally for me moving forward are, do they have more time than me? Do they have more cash to contribute?
Sure.
Or do they have assets, a team? Like we currently have an outside investor looking to invest for a small portion of Coconut, and he has a national executive team that could help us scale exponentially faster. And so for him to get that equity, it's really just his team that we would have access to.
Sure.
And that's something that I want to give up, where anyone that's saying, hey, I want to have a partner, have clear, defined roles, what you do if there is conflict. And what I've learned best with Cameron is drop the ego. Drop the ego. Once you have the operator's agreement, equities lined out, if the ego is dropped, I think most everything Cameron's had, I won't say, he doesn't like when I say it, but like he's had a lot of partners and a lot of them are gone.
Yeah.
He runs a very tight ship and he's very strict on, work ethic and, hey, this certain level isn't enough. And I knew that going into it, but not only I know that, but every conversation we have, we've never gotten above this tone.
I love that.
It's, hey,
I can't even imagine Cameron above that tone.
he can get animated, but it's not like mean. It's more so, he gets fired up
like
about
enthusiastic,
things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when you are going into a partnership and it's someone that you're okay, if you know right now you don't know how to tell them no, that's probably not a good partner to have.
Agreed.
But if it's someone that you can say, hey, look, I feel like right now you're not contributing enough. And I feel like whether it's time or, whatever we already agreed to, I just don't think you're coming through on your end. Like, can you help me understand what's going on for you?
Sure.
And then what's always been surprising for me is, well, I feel like I'm doing my part. Is there something you haven't told me that you want me doing? And that's generally what it is. It's an uncommunicated expectation where Cameron says, hey man, I didn't know you. I'll be happy to help him. And I look back, I'm like, I didn't communicate that.
Right.
I just assumed, or I would like that help. So I love partnerships. If you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. I love that.
Love that saying.
And most anyone that's accomplished something big, even at Jeff Bezos' level, owning 6 or 14% of Amazon, it's because he understands where he wants to go. He's got to get other people to contribute capital as well as having that board to contribute their minds and keep things regulated and moving forward in a way that he approves of. But at any point he could get ousted. Yeah. But he just knows the bigger picture is, I want to go here. I need these many people to help. And I feel the same.
That's the truth.
At any level.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. I love that. Yeah. My biggest piece of advice I tell people too is just like, practical advice, like make sure you align with your partners on the core values of life. Correct. Like all my partners are Christian. Correct. We're all God believing, like God fearing men, in all my partnerships and stuff like that. But the other main thing that I always tell people is like, don't ever partner with you.
That's a good point. I
love
that.
You know what I mean? Like if they're good at what you're good at, they're not a good partner because you guys are both good at the same thing and you're both bad at the same thing. Correct. Right? Like if you're really good visionary and you're really good at like selling the dream, painting the picture, seeing the way, kind of like paving the way, you need an integrator. Correct. Like you need somebody that's good behind the computer. You need somebody that can build the SOPs. You need somebody that can actually, implement a lot of the structure on the back end while you're out there doing the stuff on the front end. And so like, I see too many people that partner with people that are too similar to who they are. Correct. And it's like, that's a mistake in my opinion. Correct. You should partner with somebody who's the opposite of you in terms of that, not in terms of anything else, right? Like obviously, if you believe in God, you probably shouldn't have a business partner who's an atheist. That's my opinion. Correct. Because again, when something happens, where's the common ground? Yeah. Like if something ever happens between me and my partners, we could just flip open the Bible. Yep. And just be like, all right, bro, well, let's see what we got to do here. I love that. You know what I mean? Like, this is real simple, right? So I think those are the things that I like to tell people too. Yeah. I mean, if the two guys that started Chick-fil-A, one believed in working on the Sabbath and the other didn't, it's like we wouldn't have what we have today. No. And again, there's nothing wrong with the different backgrounds. It's again, having that alignment. Yeah. And I think what's special about Cameron and I that I've noticed even in partnerships is that we contribute a lot of different things. However, we seldomly ever need to be in the same room with a group of people. Yeah. We meet often together, but you'll seldomly ever see Cameron and I together in the same room with our management team because we're very like-minded in how we approach problem solving and growth. And what Cameron enjoys as far as the, meeting with higher level people and networking. And I am very much like, I love my people. Let's just grow this thing. Yep. So he's out sending, in these high resources into me that he's out on the helicopter with, golfing with. And I just have no interest doing that stuff. And so it works very well. But two, I think most people that I coach are from a solo partnership or a solo entrepreneur. And they just want someone to bounce dialogue back and forth. And you can seldomly ever do that with someone either that hasn't accomplished what you have or is going where you're going. It's hard to just talk to any random person. You can't. It's that partnership that understands when your back's up against the wall and you're both in a room together, that's where true problem solving happens and the vision and the mission is made. And I love Cameron. I love partnerships and I think I will always want to be in something that has multiple people invested in a similar mission. Yeah, I love that. All right, last question for you, Evan. So This might be a hard one for you. You have to put a little thought into it, potentially, maybe not. But if you had to go back and do it all over again, start Coconut day one. Today's day one for you. But knowing what you know now, what's one thing you would do differently?
Go bigger, faster. Go bigger, faster. I think now that I've been coached and mentored to be excited about franchising, I have learned now to leverage what I do in 8 to 10 hours and get more from it. Where I used to think that to have more success, you had to work 16, 18 hours a day. And so I think with what I know now and what I do going back is I would go bigger, faster by creating a team and delegating responsibilities where I knew the person's production level and what they should be at. And I think I'd probably be at 100 franchises by now if I could go back. And so I would love to, always tell and remind entrepreneurs that you don't have to sacrifice everything to build what you are. There's a lot of work in it. And I'd say like you're proof, you can leverage what you do in a day in the same amount of time that you were working, a year ago. But if you find more people to delegate things to and execute who even do it better than you can actually grow faster. And I feel like that's what we're seeing with Coconut now. Like here in the room, I have Bowden with me and he's better at sales and interactions than I am.
Sure.
And so what does Coconut do? Like we take part of our profits and we say to get a Bowden, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, but he's going to execute what I could do with 10% of my time.
Right.
He's now going to do 100% of his time and he's going to execute at 10x. And so I would definitely go back, go bigger, faster, and leverage my time and always making sure that I'm delegating at the right points and just growing big.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. Where do people find you? And where do they reach out to you guys if they want to maybe look into franchising, et cetera, et cetera?
So just on my social media, Evan P. Ritchey, but also on our website now, we have since your show created a franchise landing page that gives them more information and they can submit that information. And right now at this phase, I'm wearing that hat of franchise sales. So the person reaching out to you is going to be me. Cool. And so on my
and
social.
And the website is
www.coconutcleaningco.com.
Coconutcleaningco.com. Okay. We'll link all that in the information in the description down below. And then Evan P. Ritchey on Instagram.
Correct. Okay. And if I could, Austin, I appreciate you having me on. But also that I just think that you embody the principles that I hope people, if they don't know you, and even if you don't know me, like, one, you are a super special person to be interviewing a carpet cleaner, and you do, the most real estate here in Arizona and, potentially the U.S. I'm very appreciative and just means the world to meet people like yourself. Thank you.
Dude, thank you for being here, bro. I love having you, and every time I talk to you, I love hanging out with you.
Thank you, Austin.
I appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for staying to the very end. Appreciate you for watching. Subscribe if you have not already on YouTube. Comment down below what you thought of the episode. Definitely go check out Evan. Again, that is www.coconutcleaningco.com or Evan P. Ritchey on Instagram. Make sure that you leave a 5-star review if you're listening on any other platform, and we'll see you in the next episode.